Hey guys, what's up? Jed here. Welcome to another video. I hope you're all having a great day. In today's video, we're going to be factorizing quadratic trinomials. So what is a quadratic trinomial? Well, it's an expression, an algebraic expression, where the highest power of the expression for x is 2, and there are no negative powers. And trinomial means there are 3 parts to it. There are 3 terms to it. So that's what a quadratic trinomial is. Highest power of x is 2, and the expression has 3 terms. To factorize a quadratic trinomial is to get it into 2 brackets. Not all quadratic trinomials can be factorized into 2 brackets, so just bear that in mind. But in today's lesson, we're just going to be dealing with the ones that can be factorized, and we're going to look at the best possible way to factorize them. So the first thing you need to understand is that when you expand 2 brackets, you end up with a quadratic trinomial. And expanding 2 brackets is something you should know how to do by this stage. So if you don't know how to expand 2 brackets, I suggest you go to the expanding 2 brackets video and check that out. Okay, so expanding 2 brackets gives us a quadratic trinomial. Therefore, if we want to factorize a quadratic trinomial, we will get 2 brackets. And that's the first thing you need to know. Okay, so I know this looks kind of scary right now, but the reason I've put 4 quadratics on here is because I'm going to teach you how to master these. So let's take it nice and easy, and I'll show you how to successfully factorize each of these quadratics and my thinking behind each step. So let's start with the leftmost one, x squared plus 6x plus 8. It's a quadratic trinomial. I'm being asked to factorize it in its simplest form. So I know the first step is going to be 2 brackets. We're then going to look at the 2 symbols that go in here, or the 2 operations. Is it a plus plus, plus minus, minus plus, or 2 minuses? And I'm going to show you the best way to approach this. First step, look at your constant, the number at the end. If it's a positive, then your 2 symbols are the same. They're either going to be 2 pluses or they're going to be 2 minuses. In this case, how I know they're 2 pluses is because my middle term is a plus. And it really is that simple to identify the 2 symbols you need in your brackets. I'm just going to say it one more time. If the last symbol is positive, then your 2 symbols are the same. If the middle term is positive, then those 2 same operations are going to be positive. They're going to be the same operation as that of your x term. Okay? So let's just go ahead and do that for all of the quadratics. So I know it's going to be 2 brackets. Okay, the final term is a plus, so I know my symbols are the same. The middle term is a minus, so therefore my 2 symbols are minuses. Let's try the third one. Okay, the final symbol is a negative. So when it was a positive, the symbols ended up being the same. Now that it's a negative, they must be different. And it's as simple as that. Again, another negative at the end, so therefore my symbols are going to be different. And you might be thinking, well, hang on a second here. How do you know where to put the plus and where to put the minus? At this stage, it doesn't matter. You can put it in either or. The important thing is that you have 1 positive and 1 negative. You're going to decide later on where to put your numbers. But for now, like I said, just establish the symbols that you need. Okay, the next step. Think about when you're expanding brackets. What's the first thing that you do? You do x multiplied by x, and this gives you the x squared. So I know that my first terms to the left are always going to be x and x. So there we go. Okay, now for the final step, you're going to have to find 2 numbers that go into the brackets. And where do we get these 2 numbers from? Well, these 2 numbers must multiply to give you the last value. So this constant here, they have to multiply to give you this 8. And they have to add or subtract to give you the central value. So this value here in front of the x, the 6. Don't worry about the symbols for now. You've taken care of the symbols. All you have to worry about now is finding 2 numbers that multiply to give you the final term and add to give you the middle term. So how I proceed is as follows. I write down my final term first, and then I break it down into its factors. 2 numbers that can multiply together to give me this number. Well, I know it's A 1 and an 8, 1 times 8 gives me 8, but do they add or subtract in any way to give me 6? No, they don't. You cannot combine 1 and 8 in any way to give you 6, so I know I can't use that. The next two numbers that multiply to give you 8 are 2 and 4. And of course, you can add 2 and 4 to give you 6. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I say add or subtract, but you really only need to satisfy one of those. If they add to give you 6, it works. If they subtract to give you 6, it also works. In this case, they add to give you 6, so it works. So I'm going to use them, 2 and 4. And when the symbols are the same, it doesn't really matter where the numbers go. Let's try it for this next quadratic expression. So 8, and of course the central term is going to be 6. So 1 and 8 cannot combine in any way to give you 6. And now for our next factors, 2 and 4, they can combine. 2 and 4 combine to give you 6. Don't worry about the operation for now because you've taken care of the symbols. So 2 and 4 are our numbers. And like I said, if the symbol is the same, you don't need to worry about where the values go. So we've successfully factorized the first two quadratic trinomials. Now let's go ahead and do the last two. In the same way, two numbers that multiply to give me 8 and add to give me 2. Or let's break 8 down into its factors. 1 and 8. You cannot combine 1 and 8 in any way, addition or subtraction, to ever reach 2. Think about it. The largest you can get here is a 9 and the lowest you can get is a 7. By combining 1 and 8, you can never get 2, so immediately rule this one out. Our next factors are 2 and 4. And yes, you can combine 2 and 4 to get 2. 4 minus 2 gives you 2. So these must be the correct factors. Now, the order you put them in does matter. Do you put the 4 with the plus or the 4 with the minus? Well, how you know where the largest factor out of the two goes, so in this case 4 is my largest factor, how you know where this one goes is by looking at your central term. If your central term is positive, which it is in this case, it's positive 2, it's positive, then your largest factor goes to the positive and your lowest factor goes to the negative. So let's try that again here. For the last quadratic trinomial, we need to find two values that multiply to give us 8 and add to give us 2. 1 and 8 cannot work, so it must be 2 and 4. 4 minus 2 gives us 2. Now, since the central term is a negative value, you take your largest factor and put it with the negative symbol. And that's how that works. And therefore your lowest factor is with the positive symbol. And there you have it. Okay, now let's take what we've learned in the previous example and apply it to this question here. Factorize the following in its simplest form. It's a quadratic trinomial, so I know it factorizes into 2 brackets. The last symbol is a minus, so I know it's going to be 2 different symbols. There's an x squared at the start, so I know it's going to be x and x. Now I need to find two numbers that multiply to give me 40 and they add to give me 6. Well, I know for a fact it cannot be 40 and 1. You cannot combine 1 and 40 in any way to get 6, so that rules it out straight away. I know that it cannot be 2 and 20 because there is no way you can combine 2 and 20 to give you 6 in any way. Now for the next factors, 4 and 10, you can combine 4 and 10 to give you 6. 10 minus 4 combine to give you 6. So these are the correct factors. Now, does the 10 go with the plus or does the 10 go with the minus? Go to your largest out of the two factors, check your middle term, it's a minus. So the largest out of the two factors goes towards the minus, and therefore the other one goes towards the plus. And there you have it. You have factorized a quadratic trinomial flawlessly without having to worry about the symbols. Guys, thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please just leave them in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.